Hello and welcome to episode 33 of the Third Space podcast, entitled The Insomnotron. This is Bennett, and in this episode, Daniel and I start off by talking about fear response, or really more accurately, jump scares. What causes people to be startled easily? Is it a personality thing? Is it how you were raised? Does it have something to do with the technology around yourself, an awareness of your environment? We start off talking about that. Somehow, Legends of the Hidden Temple and escape rooms and our childhood scare events get thrown in. But after that, we move on and do a Superpowers and Drawbacks after a number of episodes. This time, Power Level 2, which is always entertaining. And then we round out the podcast episode with a discussion about what the world would be like if we managed to invent a device that could eliminate fatigue from our brains, essentially doing away with the need for sleep. And that's the Insomnotron. So what would happen in that world and what would change about it? We discussed that for a while. And that's the contents of the episode. So I hope you enjoy it, and I'll let Daniel take it away.
It's the Bennett and Daniel show of Third Space.
You're going to confuse everyone. Everyone's going to be confused now.
I'm in a confused mood. I counted to 4 instead of 6 in our clap in.
Our highly technological audio synchronization ritual.
Yeah, where we clap. It's like a game day rite of passage, ritualistic behavior where I get like in the headspace. You know, like I used to do the same amount of dribbles shooting a free throw. Like we do the same thing, and I just threw it off. And then maybe subconsciously I knew we count to 6, but like 4 ought to do it, you know? Like we was a back and a forth and a back and a forth. Do we really need another back and forth? Like, no, I think we got the rhythm.
Yeah, we really don't need more than just the clap. Honestly, that does it. But it's nice to have the words too. No one's gonna know what we're talking about.
No, that's okay.
But that's okay.
Worst intro ever.
Yeah, worst intro. Ugh, I hate us. What's been going on? I think it's been a while. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it has. It's been a minute. I had a thought, and I'm going to articulate it for the first time, and it might not make that much sense.
Okay.
Let me just. I was backing up today out of my parking spot from my apartment, and I was thinking about the ubiquitous nature of backup cameras. They pretty much exist in any vehicle. Say 2015, 2016. Even not your. They don't have to be high end. Like, there was a time when it was like, I have a backup camera, but now it's just ubiquitous.
Right.
And I'm sure you've seen these sorts of pranks on the internet where someone will put a picture of, I don't know, like Pennywise the clown, or they put a little Freddy, like they put it close to the camera, and so people get scared when they put their backup camera on and they look and they see Freddy Krueger or a clown or whatever, just a scary face, and they go, ah, and they freak out.
Right.
So my hypothesis, and this goes deep, but that when the camera was new, when it wasn't ubiquitous, that circa 2013 to 15, when like it was kind of rare and exciting to have a backup camera, I don't think that commonplace prank would be nearly as successful. I think that
you think it would make people mad?
No, here's what I mean, is that our relationship with technology, we would have looked at the camera and just seen this obstruction, or been going like, oh, that's weird, Freddy Krueger's on my camera, or like maybe a small startle. But now that this is, so I'm going big with this, but when we look at a digital interface, we tend to treat it as a digital interface until it becomes so accustomed.
Right.
Like
it's an extension.
The lines are blurred. Yeah, it's an extension. It's just looking in a mirror, and it's looking at your surroundings. So at first, when you're first exposed to these cameras and screens, you treat them as cameras and screens, but eventually you see it as just a view of your surroundings. And so when you see Freddy Krueger taking up the camera, it actually freaks you out because it's like he's right there with you.
Right.
Whereas previously it would have been like just seeing Freddy Krueger on a screen. And it made me think about the whole digital natives and digital immigrants, and how like and I think you're in this camp. We're sort of resistant to technology in some way. Well, not like the utility of technology, but like I don't Zoom or FaceTime regularly, or it's become commonplace for people, maybe like a long distance relationship, just to call your significant other and just sit on Zoom, or not Zoom, whatever the medium is, but like just have your digital image of them next to you, maybe while you do your homework or study or work or whatever. And that's so unappealing to me because it does nothing in terms of intimacy for me. Like there's a layer. I see the screen as just a digital representation of the person on the other end, whereas someone who's more accustomed to interacting with FaceTime and things like that,
you should try
actually feel the intimacy.
You should try getting your girlfriend a Freddy Krueger mask or a clown mask or something. That way you feel more. It would catch your attention more. You would notice it, and it'd be more intimate.
Yeah, we're totally on the same page. This really confirms that you're following my train of thought.
Third space.
Yeah, we're in it. We're on the same wavelength.
We're definitely on the same page. No, I get what you're saying, and yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right.
It's weird to me to stare at a screen and actually be startled. Like you look at your backup camera and you see a monster in it, and you go, oh, like it actually freaks you out as if it's with you because the line between reality and that and the camera are blurred. It's like might as well be looking at, like it's staring you in the face. You're reacting as if Freddy Krueger's in the car with you versus, I don't know, like the distance from that camera. Maybe this isn't a fair comparison because even when it was new, you know, he'd be like, oh, it's right behind me. But I'm not sure. That's my hypothesis, is that this joke has evolved. This prank is more successful currently than it would have been, 6-7 years ago.
Let me make a controversial and probably inappropriate alternate hypothesis.
I like this, where it's going.
So back in the early days when backup cameras were new, it was probably more likely that only really people in high-end cars or with expensive aftermarket modifications had the backup cameras.
Yeah.
Whereas now, every normal Joe Schmo person has a backup camera, as you said. Could it simply be that higher quality people weren't getting scared of, or wouldn't be getting scared of, Freddy Krueger or It or whatever, because they're just like, they know that there's not a clown in their backseat or whatever. Whereas we have, all of the plebeians, the normal folks who don't know any better.
I don't think there's a correlation between. At first I like the provocative claim, but I just people who are like I'm thinking of Steven, for instance, a buddy of ours. Like he is.
He gets scared really easily.
He gets scared really easily, and he's also like an intellectual person, and like so I don't think there's a correlation between your sort of fright factor, this sort of jumpy kind of guy, and your intellect. I think there's something primitive or primal.
Who said anything about intellect? Really? I mean, is it?
Well, a quality person. So
I mean, is it
might still be he might
still be low quality.
Person.
Kind of smart,
because
I guess.
He startles easily.
Yeah, kind of smart, I guess. But we're not talking about quality here.
The benchmark of quality person is how easily they're startled.
Obviously I don't believe that. But
It's funny that like there have been I think we've all experienced being startled, and when you can almost feel it in your scalp and in your skin, like the whole thing, like it's visceral, I guess, or it's just like a physical, and it almost hurts. It's a jolt feeling, but it doesn't happen to me often. So when it does, I feel almost a sense of embarrassment wash over me immediately. Like I didn't have control. It just was like, if you were to catch me on video, it would look really funny. And so Steven, for instance, has that maybe multiple times a day. I mean, I remember we were roommates, and I just, and my girlfriend, like, I'll say, hey, and and like just the startle factor is, I don't know what that is, and I don't know why.
I was going to ask, what do you think that is? Is it a high degree of focus on whatever they're doing, or is it the opposite? Is it a low degree of awareness of what's going on around them? Like,
well, is there a difference if you have what's the difference between?
I don't know. I mean, if you may have a low degree of awareness about everything, not simply
you
that
could
you're
just be zoned and then into nothingness. If that's even possible. I have a hard time imagining what that's like, because usually I'm either daydreaming, focused on something abstract and not present, or I'm really into. But either way, even when I'm really into something, for some reason, I'm just not startle prone. But I think that is a big part of it is you are focused. So yeah, my girlfriend gets really focused, and so does Steven. So
what about this? So you and I don't know that I would buy this one either, but you and I are also both very we're organized. Everything has its spot. We tend to be. We know if we're in our comfort zone, if we're in our home or workplace or wherever, we know everything that's around us, and so you kind of know what to expect from your surroundings. And so if you hear a sudden noise, you know what it probably is. Like if you hear a clang, oh, that's right, I had something in the washing machine, and it makes
you
some
identify
noise and
it quickly.
Stops. Yeah, you quickly identify it, and you're not startled. Do you think that is possible?
I'm not buying it. I'm just not buying it because I think that it's this. Like the feeling that I have when that happens, even if I'm identifying it within, I don't even know how to measure time, but I quickly know, like the fear is gone and I'm feeling embarrassed almost simultaneously. Like clearly it's reaction then embarrassment, but it feels like it's a singular moment of like, it's almost like I'm frozen with embarrassment, or I'm like, anyway, I can't help but guess that it is biologically or evolutionarily instilled in us is some sort of survival mechanism, a fight or flight, and it's just your body's whatever mechanism that jolts you. I'm gonna guess that actually everyone gets the jolt, and the jolt feels less physical for me typically, and the rare jolt is the one that actually makes me momentarily freeze up, almost like those goats that'll fall over when their legs get stiff, Have you seen those?
Yeah.
And they get startled. Like, I think that a very small version of that is happening to people who are startled easily and make funny reactions where they, or whatever. And I still get startled, but like, it doesn't feel as physical. And so therefore it doesn't feel as intense.
Did your dad or anyone ever scare you when you were a kid, or did you have a lot of jump scare experiences maybe from movies or anything like that when you were a kid?
This is funny you say that. I liked scaring my mom, and it was almost a part of growing. Like it was fun to scare my mom and scare my dad. And I wonder if this is a thing that most kids go through. It's a playful thing, and they'll scare you a little bit back and all of that. But I recall one time. My dad and I had jogged to the lake, which is about a mile at the end of my neighborhood, and my dad convinced him to come with me. Very rare. And then we came back and we decided to call my mom and say, "Hey, we got down to the lake and we're tired. Will you come pick us up? Drive the mile down the road and pick us up." But really, we were already back, and I'd sneaked into the back of the minivan, and when she cranked the car and I scared her. Oh man, I knew. I mean, I was giddy with excitement. I was a teenager at the time, and she jumped out of the car, and then she kind of goes into when fight or flight. She's more fight, like swinging. Like she does this, she'll swing and stuff. But she was out of the car and like near tears, and I knew I had like messed up to some degree, and I'm giggling, but like frantically, like, and I'm laughing, and my dad's watching this whole thing laughing, and she's pissed, and she runs inside. Actually, the first thing she does is just heads right inside and locks the door, and then she locks all the doors and locks us out for like an hour.
That sounds like something your mom would do. That's funny.
So that was it. That's like one of those stories that is told and retold in my family, because it's probably the worst she's ever been scared in that context. She was just so confident we were down at the lake,
So the reason
anyway, so we did this regularly. Yeah, we scared each other, but I didn't get. I don't know. They didn't do it that well.
Well, the reason I ask is just I don't know, another hypothesis, I guess. Like when I was a kid, my dad would hide around the corner and try to scare me when I walked past, and I would do the same thing. And I'm just wondering if it's not a developmental thing where, as a teenager or a kid, your pride is on the line, right? You don't want to be scared. You don't want to jump and show that you're startled easily.
Part of the game is not being gotten, kind of thing.
Right, exactly. So, I was trained by this practice to, when I came downstairs at night and went around the corner, I just always expected someone to jump out at me. And so it became like many times he would actually be standing there ready to scare me, and he would try, and I would already, I wouldn't react because I would be expecting it already. And so anyway, like I kind of developed this anti-startle self-defense sort of thing, if you can call it that. Like, do you think that maybe there is some sort of developmental, sort of defense mechanism that you and I built up and that other people might have built up? I don't know what Steven's child life was like, or your girlfriend's child life was like.
I would like to ask more people who startle easily, because people who get startled easily tend to get scared a lot more, ironically, and they don't seem to get better. But I agree with you that I did seem to build some resilience, and I played the game where I was expecting them, so I could not be bested. And so, yeah, but that's the irony, is the ones who react a lot are the ones that get scared a lot, and they get videoed a lot. And it's self-fulfilling in that way. It's amusing to see them. And I think the amusement comes from that inability to contain oneself in that moment. Like, that's hilarious. Like, they can't look graceful or cool or calm or collected. Right. And I don't. So I'm not buying that. Like, you can just kind of look, if you scared someone so frequently that they were expecting it every time. I don't know if they just for some reason return to a naive state where they come around that corner and somehow it is surprising. I do wonder that. Like, if they were scared so frequently, how do they still do that? Like, I've seen, whether it's a TikTok or whatever, just a series of scaring grandma or granddad or brother or sister, or whoever it is, but you can see a series of them being frightened, and they jolt in a similar fashion, and you can see a series of like 10 scares, and it's so funny. But it's also like, how are they not expecting it even if that was shot with over a month? That's 10 times. Like, that's about how I was. It wasn't incessant. I wasn't completely picked on by my parents, but I did learn, like you said, just to frequently expect it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what to think. I still think it's just sort of, you got it or you don't. That's what my intuition tells me. Like, you either jolt or you don't, and you can improve a little bit, but I don't know. I'm just not that jolty.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know. I've never thought about that. I have to get more data. Ask more people about their experience.
What would you if you were to sit down and want to like collect that data, like, and try and look at studies? I mean, academic studies on like scaring each other. It's just weird to conduct studies. Like, how would you get that data?
I'd probably experiment. I'd probably watch all of the seasons of what was that? The Scare Tactics or whatever.
Oh yeah. I'd
probably watch all of that.
Okay, well, let's take horror, like Howl Scream and these like haunted houses. It's it's October. It's getting to be closing in on Halloween, like, and people like the thrill, but I feel, and I was always wanting to find, just like I want to find the scariest movie. It always appealed to me to go to a haunted house that would be really scary. But now, I don't know if I've grown out of it. I don't know what the reason is, but it's primarily because a really good haunted house is not going to be just mechanical in nature. It's going to be humans dressed up, and they're jumping out of most corners. And a few corners are there just to make you think someone's going to jump out, and then they don't. But if you're anticipating it every time, I mean, I just don't see how it's that scary, frankly. Right. And it's fun to go with someone who does get startled and scared, and they seem to be completely out of control, right? Or maybe they're letting themselves be scared. I'm not sure. I'm not, like, what's the appeal of it? And how is that related to what we're talking about? Like, you don't seem like a haunted house kind of guy. Like, you wouldn't care.
No, I wouldn't like that.
But would you like to go with someone who is really funny when they were scared? Or, like, would that be amusing to you?
Yeah, it would be amusing.
Would you believe them, or would you be like, come on, how are you scared every corner we're going around?
It depends on who it is, I think. But, like, it would be amusing, but it wouldn't be amusing enough to outweigh my annoyance at having to go. So, yeah, on the cost-benefit scale, I would rather not go, even if they were amusing, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I've been to a haunted house like that before, where they, try to scare you and all that. I don't know. I think it's just because I find jump scares so cheap. And like, I don't know. How can you do a sophisticated jump scare? You really can't. It's just...
It's not. It's cheap.
It
is cheap.
It's not sophisticated. And once you're jump scared once, like, you know what it is, and you know what's going to happen. And it's kind of like... it's kind of unfair, right? Like, you're just at the mercy of the haunted house people, and okay, you're having me walk down this dark hallway. Is it going to be this step that they jump scare me, or this step, or this step?
Right.
And, you know, you're just waiting on it.
I think a good haunted house would either have to go all out and try and tell a story, or the rooms, and that's not likely to happen, particularly if you're shoveling people in and out. And then so a good haunted house now is thematic, either by room or holistically, and you know, tell some vague sense of a story, like while you're waiting in line. And then so when you get in, it's dramatic set pieces where you can enjoy almost the art of the eeriness, like you walk in and it's like a doll spotlighted and that's all you see, and then the light turns on and there's lots of dolls. I don't know, but or you're making your way through hanging bodies that you're having to push your way through, and then one of them like is a person, you know, suspended however by whatever wires and actually moves, but like to set that, to really build that tension with crazy setting, and then
or
you
like,
have to explore it to some degree, you know.
You walk in and there's like glitter on the floor.
Yeah, or mustard and I don't know.
Yeah, like, and it sticks to your shoes. Like the glitter sticks to your shoes, and so you track it home with you. Ugh.
Well, this just made me think of like a horror themed escape room could be, because oftentimes these escape rooms, they're puzzle based, but also narrative. They intertwine narrative and puzzles for pleasure, and so
there probably is that. I'm sure.
I'm sure there's tons of them, and
because you know the general plot line for half the escape rooms is, oh, you know, the owner of this house, the evil maniacal murderer, you have to find the clues, or he's going to come back and kill you too, you know, that kind of thing.
And so you can make it really morbid and do lots of things with death and blood and go from room to room and do some different, I don't know, I could see it being really, really fun. And actually, like, I could see that setting that I'm having to concentrate and then being more susceptible to all the little jump scares become a little richer because they've earned it a little bit. Like, they've earned the distraction because I'm having to focus to solve puzzles. So they would really get me, possibly.
It would be cool to do a haunted house escape room that was like, how, you know, big, and you're walking down hallways and stuff, but also escaping, somehow having to solve things. I don't know how.
Oh, I like the idea of that, and you're mobile. So instead of an hour in a singular room, and you know, even the good ones, you might go into 2 rooms or 3, but it's basically 3 would be a massive escape room. But if it's a house and you're going into 9 or 10, the puzzles are. Oh. It just would feel like a lot of movement. Like there's simple rooms.
You remember how in Legends of the Hidden Temple, those tribal dudes would reach out like in the lair of the Silver Monkey and grab you and pull you into the wall, and
unless you had a token, you have to give up one of your tokens.
Unless you had the token from Olmec and all of those things. Yeah. Then it would be cool to do it like that. You start with a team of 4 or 5 people, you know, in your haunted house escape room, but you know, like if they don't collect the right item from the puzzle box to defend themselves from the zombie or whatever, then the zombie can grab them and you lose a team member when they get pulled into the pit or whatever, the cemetery or something like that. And that would be cool. And so, you know, your team is getting you have attrition as you try to escape, as your people are getting captured, unless you solve the puzzles correctly and get the, you know, chainsaw or the flashlight or whatever.
Yeah, and you could earn them back somehow too. I don't know, so they can watch. I'm just trying to think of how you would create that in which they could participate once they've been eliminated in a fun way.
Right, or maybe like one of the puzzles you have to sacrifice someone.
Yeah, like actual sacrifice.
Yeah. That's cool. We have good ideas. We'll add it to our escape room business.
Let's do it.
Plan. So I have an idea. How about we do a Superpowers and Drawbacks? We haven't done one in a long time, I think.
I would very much like that.
All right, let's do it. I have a few picked out already. This time we're gonna do, on the scale of 1 to 10, we're gonna do a 2. So very exciting.
I actually like the lower ones, so.
Yeah, me too. So it's not the bottom of the barrel, but it's one step above. So I think you'll enjoy these. So, all right. So I'll present the four options. So 2 superpowers and 2 drawbacks. So
I'm ready.
The first superpower that you can choose from is called over-the-counter cure. And
over-the-counter cure.
Over-the-counter cure. So for this one, you can count. If you count to any number over 2,000, then it will relieve any mild illnesses that you have, headaches or stomach aches or anything like that.
Over 2,000?
Yep. You just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way up to 2,000.
I can count as fast as I want?
Yep.
Does it have to be vocal?
No.
Okay.
And it'll cure your illnesses, mild illnesses.
That's a long time to do that. Okay, keep going.
The second potential superpower is called digital thermometer. And this one, by concentrating on a particular temperature, you can cause your toes to rapidly cool down or heat up. And you can potentially cool down your toes all the way to negative 200 degrees Celsius, or heat them up all the way to 1,000 degrees Celsius by doing this.
And they don't hurt me.
No, yeah, your toes or any of the tissues next to your toes, they're not damaged by this.
1,000, is that enough to, if I put it to paper, it would it would definitely flame,
Definitely. Yeah.
And
it would catch stuff on fire, and you could easily freeze things at minus 200.
Like if I needed to chill my drink,
Yeah,
stick my toes in.
Dip your toes in if you wanted to. You could do that.
It doesn't affect hygiene, or does it? Because hot, there'd be no bacteria.
You could fry all of your athlete's foot off of your toes anyway.
I mean, I could cook things on my feet.
You could easily cook things with your toes.
I mean, I'd burn things on my feet if I weren't careful.
Uh-huh.
That's interesting.
You can do. You have to concentrate on it. So you do have to be careful with it, but it's not like you're going to accidentally burn your shoes off. You have to concentrate on the temperature.
Like steadily, or I just go, please be 80 degrees, please be 80 degrees, and it kind of gets there. Am I straining to what? Yeah.
It doesn't tire you out. You just have to concentrate on it, focus on it, and it does take some time to elevate. If you're doing an extreme temperature, like if you want to go all the way to 1,000 degrees, it takes a little while for your toes to get there to heat up. But
if I wanted to cook a piece of bacon, I couldn't play a game on my phone and sort of be thinking, come on, feet, get warmer, and play a game on my phone or send an email or something. I'd have to be thinking about my feet.
I mean, you would have to be thinking about your feet, but even when you're actually cooking bacon on the stove, you can kind of concentrate on something else. If you're listening to music or a video or something in the background. So it doesn't take your 100% focus, but you can't just do it in the back of your mind or something.
Okay.
Make sense?
It does.
Okay. All right, so you have those 2 potential superpowers to choose from, but in order to get one, you have to choose one of these 2 drawbacks. The first one is called I think I'm going to puke. And it's very simple. Hearing the sound of a gong makes you vomit instantly.
Okay. I don't think I hear a lot of gongs in my life.
It's true, but when it happens...
You're gonna puke.
Yeah, you're gonna puke instantly.
Just projectile right there. No holding back.
Nothing. And if anyone finds out this weakness of yours, then you're not gonna have a good time.
Did you think of that phrase and then think of the the drawback?
I don't know. I don't remember.
It just sort of all happened beautifully at once.
Yeah, that does happen. That does happen a lot. I think of a phrase and I think, that'd be a good superpower or drawback. The other drawback that you can choose is called objects in mirror may be older than they appear. And for this one, your reflection appears to you and only you to be yourself at 75 years old. And it's non-predictive, so just seeing your old self in the mirror doesn't mean you're going to actually live to 75.
But if I did live
to 75, then
that's how I'd look.
It would look like you. Yeah, if you turned 75 and looked in the mirror, it would be perfect. It would look just right. But
okay.
So there you go. Time to become a superhero.
Yeah, I think so. Let me think about the drawbacks for a moment. I think I'm gong to puke. It seems like a risk I'm willing to take for almost any superpower, because, okay, it's most likely to happen probably during a movie or, I mean, in real life, I don't know that I've heard just a good old loud gong. And when I have, I really don't know that I have, but I've seen it on TV, I've seen it represented. And I'm assuming that would make me a projectile. But, like, that is pretty rare and a risk I might be willing to take.
Okay.
I mean, it could suck if you were in a situation and you just can't avoid hearing the gong, though.
Yeah, it's your birthday and you go to the hibachi restaurant and they say, "Happy birthday to you," and they have a special, Japanese happy birthday song, and then they bong at the very end of it, and you projectile vomit right onto the hibachi table, and it sizzles and everything.
It cooks the rice.
It cooks your vomit on the hibachi table, and the smell is everywhere.
Gross. Oh, that's gross. And then seeing yourself at 75. At first, that sounds like almost no drawback. It's just like, okay, I know this isn't real, but I wonder how much of our self-image is seeing ourselves in the mirror. And, there are times we feel like handsome or not handsome, and and it's nice to feel confident and get that extra boost when things seem to fit just right, or your hair, you're having a good hair, I don't know, a good hair day, whatever that might mean, or you're feeling yourself. And I do think that this drawback might be significant in the dreaded self-esteem department. That term makes me cringe to some degree, self-esteem. But I'm going to use it because I think it's useful here, and I think it would impact your self-image. Well, perhaps in a humbling way.
It's literally impacting your self-image because you can't see yourself except from.
And this is reflected in water or your phone case.
Yeah.
Excuse me, or whatever. Like, yeah. So, that is a risk that's harder to quantify. Well, both are difficult to pin down, but the fact that I just know I can conceptualize seeing myself older all the time a little bit, and it's all the time versus the gong thing. I think I'm gonna puke like 3 times. I really think it could be 8 for the rest of my life, but it could be 3.
You're definitely gonna hear more than 8 gongs in the rest of your life.
Bet accepted, man. I'm gonna start counting my gongs.
Do it then. Do it. I'm sure you've heard 8 gongs. I mean, there are gongs in musical pieces that you hear, sometimes.
Okay.
And if you watch any Chinese or Japanese or Asian themed movie, you hear it. Just in our B movie watching, we've probably heard 8 gongs. Like Big Trouble in Little China. There's got to be a gong in there.
Okay. Well, fair enough. But like even that, the gong. Okay, in that situation, when watching B movies, the projectile vomiting is manageable. Like it's not gonna
maybe to you, but now this means I have to projectile vomit as well, because as soon as you do, I'm going to.
I'm more thinking like I'm at the theater or a musical show or something, and like it's just this nightmare in front of everyone. Versus you and I are like just watching a movie and I projectile vomit and I go, damn it,
I definitely think that's worse.
What?
Okay. If me and you are watching a movie and you
think that's
vomit.
Worse?
Yeah, I don't want to.
Well, for you. Oh, for you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't care if you do it in a movie theater, but if you do it with me, that's gross. I don't want to see that.
So,
hear that.
I actually, if I had to choose one of those, I would choose the gong thing. I just would. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to think of the utility of, what do we call it? The thermometer?
Digital thermometer.
Yeah. Because it's weird that you call it digital.
Because it's your digits.
Okay, I was looking for the pun and digital.
Because your toes are digits. The thermometer isn't right because thermometer measures temperature, but, cut me some slack here,
Yeah, I like it. Digital thermometer. I'm trying to think of the utility of that. It's funny because toes, you did a good job of making it inconvenient and a little gross.
It's not inconvenient.
It's
right?
well, just
It's
take it. You almost always have socks and shoes on, and so I'm just saying, on your body. If it were my fingers, it's a lot more.
Oh, sure.
I just feel like I would use it a lot more. Whereas I'd have to think about, is this something I want to do? The feet, just the barrier to it being not even close to my, like the feet are the furthest. It's the furthest part of myself from myself. Like,
That's a funny thing to say.
where do I reside in my body? I don't know, but I think the feet are far away from me. That's such a heady statement. Literally, because we're
footy
in.
statement.
Well, if we're in our, like, where do I feel like I'm located in my body? The very nature of that question is headache inducing, but the feet are way
count
down
to
there.
2,000 and you can get rid of that.
So that has some practical utility to me. Counting to 2,000 quickly would take. How long do you think that would take?
I don't know, a few minutes.
Yeah, let's say under 10 minutes.
An hour is 3,600 seconds, and you can count. You're counting way faster than a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're counting probably 3 numbers a second or something. So it'd probably take you 15 to 20 minutes, maybe less.
So this is interesting. I would say that counting occupies the same headspace as it does to make your toes hotter or colder. So you can kind of count on semi-autopilot, but you definitely have to get each number. You can't just skip some or whatever. And my stomach hurts fairly frequently. I have probably, I'm going to guess, less headaches than the average person, but, close to average, slightly less than. And far more stomach aches is my guess. So, but there's something powerful about these toes being really cold and really hot. Like, they could be life-saving. They could be. I just can't think of why. It's like a lot of the things we've talked about, like the party trick advantage, or at least the party trick, the
it's
attraction
funny how often
of
that
this
comes into play.
for me. Yeah, the pageantry of it, but I don't see much pageantry in hot toes, like, look how hot my toes get. But like, it would be like, look at it sizzle some bacon. I don't know why I keep coming back to that. It's just because it's very it's audio heavy too, the sizzling of the bacon. It's like you can see the heat and hear it.
You can always have a cold drink, if it's the hot summer and you have your drinks have gotten hot and warm.
That's so
you can
gross.
just put it between your feet and cool it down.
Yeah, I guess it's not sticking it in the liquid. I kept thinking of it like sticking your foot in the liquid.
No, you don't have to do that.
I'd like to know if I were in a pool during the summer, let's say in Florida, where it's a little bathwater. Like, do we wish it were cooler? And I just made my feet get really cold. It wouldn't really do anything to a pool. Or how long would it take for it to do something to a pool?
Yeah, I didn't do the calculations for that.
It's like you could take your bubble. I might take more baths and I'd heat up the water that way. I don't know. It could just be if you loved baths, this would be more appealing. You could take hotter baths more easily.
So I think what would probably happen is that if you got in the pool and you wanted to make it cooler and you concentrated and you made your toes minus 200 degrees, probably what would happen is the water would just freeze around your toes, and you would just have a big ice ball around your feet, and it wouldn't really spread out to the whole pool effectively like you want. You'd probably be better served choosing, I don't know. We'd have to run some experiments to see what would happen exactly.
But none of this. I'm trying to think of the extreme positive
self-defense. If someone is attacking you, heat your toes up to 1,000 degrees and just kick them. And
do I have
not
to
only
deal...
have they been kicked, now they have also been set on fire.
Yeah. Do I have to deal with that? Like, I better take my socks and shoes off. Like, this is once they're 1,000 degrees, they're affecting anything other than my toes and the skin around it, and like so it would just burn holes in my shoes and my socks and stuff.
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
Okay.
So you might have to consider that a little bit. Maybe if you're being attacked, quickly take your shoes off. And then kick them. Oh, hang on a second. You're gonna love this party trick, criminal.
I don't. Yeah. Oh crap! This guy might be a mugger. Hold on a second. What are you doing? Taking off my shoes.
Do you want the ice? You want the ice foot or the hot foot?
I can see this like, hey, nice Nikes, punk, and I grin at him like you have no idea. Hand over the Nikes, sure thing. I don't know. This isn't appealing to me. The digital thermometer is not appealing to me. So I think I'm taking the deal, and I'm taking over-the-counter cure.
Okay.
And I'm going to puke.
Interesting choices, my friend.
I think yeah. Let me just sit with that for a few seconds here. It's the risk factor of gongs. I would if this were real, I'd say, hey, give me an hour. I'm gonna dig deep into gongs and see how pervasive they are in our society. You know, and if I found out that, did you know gongs are used in 10% of musical numbers and stuff, I'd just be like, I can't do this. I can't take this.
You have to do a quick listen through the Third Eye Blind discography.
Yeah. I want to know, the prevalence of gongs in I do, but. If I'm accurately perceiving the rarity of gongs and say, if I'm not actively avoiding gongs, then I'm exposed to a couple a year, then a couple of years, a lot of puking out of control.
Yeah, but you get to cure all of your headaches.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, let me explore a little bit so I can cure some... Even a pretty bad headache, right?
Or a hangover, or...
Yeah, okay. Cures a hangover, cures a headache, cures just...
COVID, anything mild.
No, like, what about colds? Like a common, like just sniffles and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I'm going to take it, I think. At least that's what my intuition's telling me. How about you?
I don't get headaches very often. Almost never, really. Probably less than one a year. I don't really get stomach aches. I don't really have illnesses that often, which I'm grateful for. So this superpower doesn't... I mean, it's useful, but not that useful. Digital thermometer, I have the same questions about its utility, but I'm pretty sure I can find some uses for heating up my toes to 1,000 degrees. That's just pretty cool, or hot, depending, whatever. I could definitely be satisfied by having that superpower. But the drawbacks, I hate puking. I don't hear that many gongs. It's tough. But the mirror thing, there's the psychological component to it that you mentioned. I don't think that would bother me as much. I think the practical problem would bother me more. Sometimes I actually want to know what I look like because I need to say, oh, okay, I'm about to go out into public. Do I look presentable? How am I looking right now? And if I am a 75-year-old man in the picture, I'm not going to be able to tell as easily, okay, how do I look? Do I look all right? Do I look presentable? I'm a 75-year-old man, so I don't know, really.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think the practical thing might kind of get in the way there.
Let me ask you this. You're sitting on the couch, you have a fan position blowing, and you put your feet up on the coffee table and you've positioned a fan that are blowing past your feet toward you, and it's a hot summer day and your AC's broken and you've turned your feet down to negative 200. Is this going to be a nice cool breeze blowing on you? This is a science question. I think it would definitely be, right?
It would be, yeah. And it would probably dehumidify your air too, so it would pull all the water out of the air and freeze it on your toes.
Okay. So what are you doing?
Yeah, I think I'm going to do a digital thermometer, and I think I'm going to puke. I think I can take the risk of the gongs. But man, I hope no one finds out about this drawback. Because, I mean, let's be real. That's a risk here. If a student that doesn't like you finds out about this drawback of yours, you're done. Like you're
Right, it
done.
could
All
become
they
a
have to
game
do-
where you're like clicking on files or anything you open up starts playing gongs.
They could
and,
have a
like...
gong notification, tone on their phone or something, and as soon as it texts them right in the middle of class, and there's nothing you can do. And it's not like you can, what are you doing? Are you putting this gong as your notification tone? I didn't know. Sorry. Like,
I'm laughing too because my initial thinking was like, oh, how many gongs do you hear in a lifetime? Like 8? And you're like, no, you could hear 8 in a year, or like we're just far apart on conceptualizing how often we're exposed to gongs. I haven't had to try and guess how many gongs I'm gonna hear in my life, like over under 30. Because if we're at 30, that's 30 times you're gonna really puke, and this, independent of its inconvenience of when it's gonna happen. That's just, if I was just guaranteed to puke 30 more times, it's like that means something bad. Like I don't like puking, so. Ugh. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna chance it. I think I'm gonna chance it for this, and like every time I puke because of a gong, then I'll just have to go home and satisfy myself with heating up my toes or something and going, it was worth it. It was worth it.
The over-the-counter cure, though, like you're guaranteeing a reasonably comfortable physical life. Oh, would this cure, like I have a little bit of ache in my knee? For instance, I hit it the other day. It's a little bit achy. Would that get rid of that?
I don't think so. That's more of an injury rather than an illness.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, so like a paper cut or something, it wouldn't count.
Yeah, no. Getting kind of technical, but yeah, I would say this is more for an illness and not an injury. I mean, you could quibble, but I'm just gonna set the rules there.
I like it. It's fine. That's not how I was. Yeah. I've still taken it. I think. Or like it would be easier if like I hate the maddening itch of mosquito bites or whatever bugs you might get into. If you could eliminate itchiness too through this, but yeah, it doesn't count.
Yeah, I don't think so. It's not an illness.
Yeah. Well, I'm probably the least sure about my decision here. Usually I conclude and I feel good, but now I feel like we're at the move on point, and I'm not happy. Like it doesn't sit well with me. I'm not satisfied with my decision. So,
maybe on best of Superpowers and Drawbacks, we'll revisit it, and you can revise things after you've sat with it for a while.
If you've made note, I would almost like to do a fast recap of ones and see if I choose the same thing, because I don't remember, right? And so I'd like to know if it was just sort of random into my mood, or like if I choose the exact same of all of them. I'd like to know that.
Yeah, I make a note of when we did it and what episode and all, but I don't note which ones you chose. We'd have to go back and listen and compile them.
But wouldn't that be interesting if I didn't know and you did, and you said, oh, yeah, you chose a different one this time? Like, man, I'm just random. I just make decisions based on nothing versus, nope, you aligned perfectly like you did last time. So.
Well, let's be real. The ones and twos, like a lot of times they could go either way. They're pretty. They could, yeah. Minor. They're pretty minor.
I tend to take your offers. I mean, I think anyway.
That's good. I like that. That's why I'm your friend. If you didn't take these, then I would reconsider things.
It also means there's parity among the superpower and drawback.
Yeah, I try to do my best. You've caught me a few times where they seem a little bit out of whack, but
you don't examine as thoroughly. At least I don't think before you vet. That we vet them thoroughly. That's the whole game, is vetting them.
Yeah, I mean, I have a big list. I have dozens that we haven't done before, but they're all rated differently. So, like for twos, I have a lot. So I think I have like 3 drawbacks and 4 superpowers left in twos. And then I have a lot of threes.
I feel like there's room to make this into a party game. We could mark it somehow. I don't know. I like it.
Yeah, we could maybe, but I don't know. It's good enough for a podcast segment.
I like it.
I have another thing that I want to discuss with you. It's kind of along the same lines as some of the superpowers, maybe. But you remember a couple episodes ago we talked about the the teleportation devices that were the size of refrigerators. Remember that?
Yes.
So I have another proposed sci-fi item that I want you to think about. What would change? What would the world be like if it were invented today? So imagine a device that instantly, or not instantly, but quickly replenishes the brain, just like sleep does. So I imagine it like, those hair dryer things in a salon that, women put their head under.
Yeah. Curling stuff.
I don't even know what those do, really, but that thing with the holes in it and everything.
And do they still exist?
I don't know. I feel like I haven't seen one. Every time I go into a salon now, I don't see those.
Yeah. All your salon visits recently don't.
It's really weird how salons have changed over the years. Like, I remember in like old-timey videos I would watch, they would have those swinging doors and like a bar and cowboys and stuff. And then like in the 90s, it was like old women getting their hair curled. So
saloon, salon, potato.
Times they are changing. Now we don't even see salons, so who knows where things are going. Anyway, that's how I picture it, is a thing like that comes down over your head and costs about $1,000 for this device, and it replenishes the equivalent of 1 hour of sleep every minute. So you sit with your head under this thing for 8 minutes, and you feel fresh and as if you have just had a solid night's sleep.
Wow. Oh man, I really like this invention. You should make it. I'd buy it.
I call it the Insomnotron. Because you don't have to sleep.
Yeah, I get that. Insomnotron, I like it.
So do you think, what do you think about the device?
Well, obviously it's super appealing because we sleep so much of our lives away. We require this rest. And one of the questions I have about rest is the escape factor. Like, I wonder, there's something about taking a break, there's even expressions like, let me sleep on it, let it sink in. It's this idea that
don't let the sun set on your anger kind of thing. Like, there are multiple reasons where it's good to take a break from consciousness.
It's good to take a break from consciousness. It's I don't know if you're familiar with that term white space or if I brought it up on the podcast before, but it started off in the field of aesthetics and particularly museums. You don't hang a famous painting right next to a ton of paintings. You don't just fill a wall up with paintings. You have one painting and a lot of white space in between that and the next painting. And the idea is that there's nothing there, but that nothingness isn't nothing. It's actually supporting the painting, right? Like it frames the painting. And so psychologists have kind of jumped on this term as like when we are exposed to a complex idea, then we need white space. We need time to process that huge idea. And so when I think about that in terms of education, I think of a student going to a class, getting exposed to a new idea and going, but then they have to immediately go to their next class and get exposed to an idea. And it's just a series of, right. I mean, in an effective school day, ideally you're getting exposed to a lot of great ideas, but there's a problem with too much of it. And when do you sit around and get to, process? And so... Yeah,
that's a good point. It is interesting in school how, you go from your math class where you're learning about like Pythagorean theorem or some revolutionary piece of math from history, and then you go to your science class and you learn about some amazing, discovery of science, and this is just like your homework. Like it's something so beneath your notice. I see what you're saying about, but then again, history is so dense with revolutionary, amazing discoveries and things that if you're going to learn it all, they do have to kind of become rote. Yeah,
well, that's what's the reason I bring that up is I want to know if your brain is refreshed. I want to know what that means. Like, we don't need to sleep, but is there still a risk of, like, theoretically this invention happens and everyone's using it and everyone's getting twice as much work done and blah blah blah, and then they start to go mad, right?
Yes.
And they go, I didn't get a break. When do I just check out? And they. So
I'm really glad you're mentioning this. This is something I wrote down. This was a thought I had about it too. Like, we thought along the same lines here. because I imagine it like I don't know, and I'm not sure if anyone knows what actually is depleted and replenished during sleep. I'm sure there's a lot of research done on that, and I'm just not aware of it. But it's got to be some sort of chemical process, right? Like some neurotransmitters depleted, and your brain goes into this diminished state of consciousness while those chemicals get replenished by your nervous system and your nutrition. That's got to be what happens, something like that, right? I could be really wrong, but that just seems reasonable. And so I imagine this device, it has its fans and its aluminum foil and its hover whatevers, and it's like waves are going into your brain and replenishing your neurochemicals, and that's how it works. But it doesn't. Your consciousness is still there, your focus is still there, and you're not getting a break. You're just replenishing your brain. You don't feel that fog that you feel when you're really tired. You don't get that pressure behind your eyes that you can feel when you're low on sleep, but you don't get a break. So maybe you would start to go mad a little bit, if you never have a break from everything. Like you would have to adjust your own psychology, right? The way that you tackle activities in your day. You would have to, at least I would have to structure things more so that I'm working on one thing for a while, and then I completely change and work on another thing for a while, and then I, replenish my brain in the Insomnotron, and then I do a different thing instead of just keeping at the same thing all the time.
Yeah, I wonder how that would change to I mean, we have a weekend structure built into, even when you're in the grind of a career for 10 years, you don't work every day for 10 years. You have 5 days and you really enjoy that weekend, the weekend being a metaphor for sleep here, right? Like you just kind of do something different and you look forward to it. And I think even your day is like, all right, and now I'm done. It's this nice cap. There's a beginning, middle, and end. I think we crave there being like, I've done all I can do today. And it would be annoying to me, like, all right, I just accomplished something, and then I go in the machine for 8 minutes, and like I'm supposed to do something else. It's like, damn it, no, I did a good job today. Now I should just, I don't know, like I should reset, or I should have it really disrupts this beginning, middle, and end to your days, or it could in this, you just wouldn't have that. It'd just be like this perpetual thing, and it actually starts to sound like scary and unappealing when you think of it. Like
all right, so we have those negatives. I mean, that's definitely a possible negative, and I thought along the same lines. But let's try to flesh out some of the positives and see if we can't make a case for this device, because like it's interesting how you initially hear about it and you're like, that's amazing, I want one, here's my $1,000, and then you think about it and you're like, maybe this wouldn't be so great. But like I think there are some potential benefits and definitely some drastic changes that would happen in society if this was a widely available device.
I'm trying to think of what, other than we advance more because people are able to code longer and build stuff longer, and like people, just hours of operation would change fundamentally of right. Stores and things like this. Our relationship with the sun wouldn't be as strong as it currently is, perhaps.
Yeah, well, I mean, I imagine that. I mean, it has to be true that human sleep cycles are, evolutionarily geared towards the rotation of the Earth. Like,
right.
When the sun goes down, well, we can't see stuff, we can't really do anything, so we sleep during that time, and
if it's no longer
things are linked.
necessary,
now we don't need to sleep. I mean, obviously people work night shifts and stuff already now, but if you don't need to sleep, then a security job might, they might not hire 2 shifts. They might have one shift that they pay 75% more or something, and you just have your 8-minute sleep break in the middle, and you have a 24-hour shift or something.
Oh wow, yeah, shifts would be entirely different. I wonder if we'd start to not structure the week. Like, why do this 5-hour or 5-day to? Could it be like, I'll do a 40-hour work week all at once and then have a lot of time off?
Right. That's one of my predictions that I jotted down was a big increase in asynchronous work, because you could quote unquote sleep. You could refresh your brain whenever you want, and so an employer could potentially expect their employees to be available for work at any moment, and you would just have to schedule that, I imagine.
How do you envision our relationship with food changing?
It's another thing I jotted down. Yeah, I imagine that lunchtime, dinner time, breakfast, like the times would just be obliterated, right? Because if everyone isn't sleeping at roughly the same time and waking up at roughly the same time, then they could be at any hour of the day. You could be hungry. It could be time for a meal. I also wonder if that happens, if you eliminate meal times. What do you think? Do people get fatter on the whole, or thinner?
Well, I was just thinking weirdly you're eating. Are you eating twice as much, but you're spending twice as much energy? Roughly, we'll call it twice as much, but let's say 2/3 as much.
Yeah, you definitely burn more calories when you're awake than when you're asleep.
So you'd have to eat more. I'm not convinced that mealtime would be obliterated. It might the ritual of it might become more ingrained, and so we're eating at like 12, 6. I don't know. Like we
so?
already. I think mealtime is such a crucial part of civilization and socialization, and so I think I'm not sure. I'm just throwing this out there. So. And it might not be agreed upon with everyone, but maybe your family or your friend group or whoever it is in your social life kind of starts to gravitate toward, hey, you want to grab a meal? Well, like people will continue to eat together. That's what I'm confident in.
Yeah,
people will continue to eat together, and so then that means that your social group might sort of carve out their meal cycles together.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think people would still eat together, but like imagine. You have a 5 days of no real sleep, and so you are, let's just start it at 8 a.m. or whatever, and you eat your breakfast, and then you eat your lunch, and then you eat your dinner, and then you Insomnotron yourself, and now it's 11 p.m., and by the time you make it to 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., you're going to be hungry again.
Well, yes, but why do we have meal times now? Shouldn't we just eat when we're all hungry? And yet we have generally agreed upon times, and it's socially constructed, isn't it? Shouldn't we just be grazers, sort of eating and grazing as we go? But we don't. Why do we have meals, like meal times anyway?
I don't think it's totally socially constructed. I mean, if we were meant to be constantly eating, then we wouldn't have stomachs to store our food. There's probably something to do with digestion and the rate of digestion and absorption, and there's probably also evolutionary reasons. In our past, when we were hunter-gatherers in the winters, we have to eat big meals and then travel or run, across the savannas or whatever. Yeah. There are probably reasons why we have to be creatures of endurance, and so we need to be able to store up our food. We can't rely on there always be food nearby to graze on.
Well, it would be obnoxious if I can't sit there and do some physical labor or mental labor for a couple of hours without having to graze somehow. But I do imagine an ideal eating scenario here in this real world, no fiction here, like just being like truly grazing and having, I'll call them meals just for the sake of a deliberate moment in which I'm stopping to eat. But I could see like that number being more like 8 meal, like tiny meals. I could just see it being that way and feeling pretty good, where I'm never very full or hungry, or and I feel satisfied, and so it gets easier to intake healthy food. It just becomes practical.
That's very optimistic of you.
Maybe, yeah. But anyway, it's a little tangential, but
I tend to think that the invention of this device would make people a lot fatter, because they would be awake and therefore not able to not eat. When you're asleep, that's a benefit, right? You can't eat while you're asleep, yeah. You can't stuff your face when you're snoring. But if you're awake, you definitely can. And every 4 hours or 5 hours, you're gonna get a little hungry, and then you're gonna eat. And I think that our meals are already generally a little too big and too calorie dense, and so the more meals you have, the more overeating you're gonna do.
Well,
So
if you think of our body as like a machine, at first I'm like, oh, we'll have twice the lifespan, but it's twice the wear on yourself. Like you're taking a lot more poops and pee, and you're just wearing you're just wearing it all out. You're taking so many more steps, and your joints are gonna wear thinner, and I think you're gonna cut your life expectancy like quite a bit. Like it might shorten from, let's just say it's like 75 now. I don't know what it is. To it could be like, what if it went down to 60 or something like that? Even with our
I think
modern health advice.
life expectancy in the U.S. is something like 81.
Okay.
81 years old.
So
Yeah, I
let's
was
say it
trying
did
to.
go down to 65 because like, yeah, your things are going to give out earlier. You're doing so much more. Yeah, you're walking around more.
So let me. You might be right. You're walking around more, and so your joints are going to wear and tear.
Just picturing like a car, the great car to buy is the little old church lady who only drove to church on Sundays and she
Sure.
kept it for 3 years, and it's got,
Well,
2,000 miles on it versus
all
someone
right.
who drives it all the time. So
Well, how about the argument that a sedentary person who just sits on the couch has, a shorter lifespan than the jogger who goes out and runs and wears and tears his body every day? Like,
yeah, I don't really know how. Yeah, what is wear and tear, right? Like, is it just good to keep it going? You're right. That's a good point. I don't know. I don't know what is detrimental and what is helpful.
yeah. So, I mean, with regards to the sleep thing, I could certainly see, this is sci-fi, of course, so I'm not sure exactly how it would work. But I could see maybe since you're awake, you're conscious additional time, then maybe there's some wear and tear, like you say. You're certainly exposing yourself to more risk by being awake and not sleeping, because when you're asleep, nothing dangerous is going to happen to you, probably. Whereas
Yeah.
when you're awake, you could be in a car accident or whatever. You could have an Insomnotron malfunction. Who knows? Lightning could strike, and you could be awake for the rest of your life. But also think about this though. I had a point that I was going to say.
That was just funny though.
where,
I'm thinking about lightning striking, and yeah, just,
so also though, it could have effects that could like extend your life. Maybe this is where I was going to try to go, and I kind of forgot what I was going to say though. What was I going to say?
why would it?
So
extend?
okay, so
Well,
so it's replenishing. I remember now. So a lot of adults in the United States, especially, are chronically underslept. Right, like the average person gets less sleep than they need. People in general, an
yeah,
adult
no, it's true.
requires between 7 and 10 hours of sleep every night.
Right.
And
I got 5 last night, and I'm miserable. I'm miserable right now, sincerely. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people are chronically underslept, and that's detrimental to your health. But with the Insomnotron, all you have to do is sit under the Insomnotron's comforting hover hood and, microwave your brain back to health for 8 minutes, and you are now fully reconstituted. And so potentially you could avoid those detrimental underslept effects that people have. What about that?
Yeah. I mean, I've heard it described as like a lack of sleep epidemic and things like that. So, yeah, I think that's convincing. Um,
Yeah, I don't know though. I think
do
I
you
think
think what do you think guilt comes in? Like, so those who are just like don't have a lot of grit or are lazy, just like it's gonna be so much worse. like or am I wrong? The is this a rich get richer, poor get poorer situation in which the hyper productive people that exist in society already are like capitalizing to an even greater degree, and there are so many people that are lazy. We don't want to call them lazy, and we will invent millions of reasons to excuse their laziness, but there are lazy people in the world, and they would be on such full display, and it would cause like a rift even greater than currently exists.
that's an interesting theory. I'm having a hard time thinking of why that wouldn't be true, but you could make the same argument against a smartphone or any other piece of useful technology that increases productivity. Like,
well, that's just what's happening. Yeah, I think. Yeah, it wraps right into what's going on now. Is like, yeah, the
yeah,
people who don't function, capable people have more to work with. Yeah.
Capable people take advantage of the tools at their disposal, and lazy people don't take advantage of the tools at their disposal, and then life plays out. And the disparities
grow, and it just looks it's just more and more uncomfortable to deal with that reality.
But it also means that at any given moment, a quote unquote lazy person could say, "I'm tired of this," and use all of the many tools at their disposal to, actually make a life for themselves and have success. So the Insomnotron, it would just be a tool, and anyone could use it, whether you're quote unquote lazy or
especially the
not.
price point, because $1,000 TVs, that's like a pretty base. You get now it's expensive, but a while ago that was a normal price for a TV. You pay $1,000, you can get a 65-inch TV now. That's pretty decent. Right. So. And people have those, so rich and poor people. So I think everyone's going to get this. And where this is slightly different than technology, or it is technology, I get that, but this digital stuff it requires knowledge, whereas this sleep device is just, here you go, here's energy, here's more time, basically. So that's a little bit different than.
Well, what about like a car? I mean, a car requires a little bit of knowledge to drive it, but let's be real, it doesn't require that much knowledge. Most everyone drives.
What a phone or something like that, a smartphone offers, is both access to good and bad, and that's so distractions. And there are studies really that people who impoverished people used phones differently because no one has shown them the way or demonstrated a healthy use of how to do it, and so they develop these really bad patterns early on, and they continue down that path. But where this is different is this is simply neutral. This doesn't have there's not a bad way to use it. You just get more time, and so.
Fair enough. Yeah. I'm not gonna argue in favor of smartphones. Definitely, they have their negative aspects, but in terms of a productivity device, this would be comparable to something like a washing machine.
Yes.
A washer and dryer. It saves you the time of having to manually have your wife wash your clothes.
Yeah. Agreed.
And now you can have her do it with the machine.
Yeah.
No, but you know what I'm saying? The Insomnotron saves, whether you're lazy or not, it increases your productivity, and the same as a washer and dryer. But I don't think you would make the same argument and say that the rich get richer because they have a washer and dryer, would you?
I don't think you would, typically.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I see your point. And definitely, I think that hyperproductive people would just not sleep anymore, and they would just Insomnotron themselves, and
it's just it would build a new market, I think, for escapism. There's already a market for escapism. I just think it would be. I think that's what you were referring to earlier when you said I would have more deliberate, even a more scheduled time. What you're saying is I'd be deliberate with perhaps developing white space or relaxation time or whatever it is.
I'm sure you've had the experience of it being, a Friday, and you get off work and it feels like the weekend, right? Because your work is done.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. Yeah,
it is a good feeling, and you celebrate and you do something fun for a couple of hours or something, and then you do something fun for another hour or so, and it's starting to get late, and it's the weekend, so you don't want to go to sleep because it's weekend time, and you want to, do something else, and it gets time to go to sleep, and you feel like, oh, I don't want to go to sleep. I want my Friday to continue. I mean, surely you've had that feeling before, right?
Yeah.
And so this is a time when the Insomnotron could be very useful because you could just recharge your brain and then keep going.
Absolutely.
And continue to enjoy your weekend. But like you say, at some point, I think anyway, you're going to run out unless you structure your life such that you have many things to pull your attention. put, different things to put your attention on, I think you are going to get to a point where you're kind of burnt out on just doing stuff, and you're just kind of like, oh, what do I do? Nothing sounds good right now. And that's where sleep would come in handy.
When I feel anxious or I have some sort of thought spiral, I tend to lose track of beginning, middle, and ends. If that makes any sense. This is a vague description, but if I feel overwhelmed and I am like, I have this to do and this to do and this to do, and I sort of lose track of the idea that like a calming thought is that, well, this will be over, or this is only going to be around for so long. And so when I am thought spiraling, it's because I'm losing track of beginning, middle, and ends. And so if this machine makes me lose track of beginning, middle, and ends, all like life could start to feel, oh my gosh, I have this and this and this and this and this, and you start to go, I'm not gonna have the beginning, middle, and end. I'm gonna I don't have this nice arch. Yeah. It's just like I'm going and going, and that starts to bother me on some level, with no clear resolutions or caps or that sort of thing.
Yeah, I definitely think in a world with the Insomnotron, there's an increased level of mental illness generally. Like, I just think you're going to get more psychoses, people not having an endpoint.
I think a lot of people, including myself, say I enjoy a nap or I enjoy sleep. And I am referring to recharging my brain, which the Insomnotron would give me. But I'm also saying I enjoy being in a comfortable bed and sort of like letting go. And I like being under the covers and snuggling up. And in the Insomnotron world, I might not do that very frequently at all, if ever,
right,
like just like letting my body relax in a way. That's the thing too, is how long before your body's just so achy because it didn't, what state when you're in sleep, what sort of relaxation do you have in your muscles? Like, would you see uptakes in massages and things like that?
That's a good point. I think you might be right on that.
Like, it becomes more necessary to do spa-like treatment. So you see spas start to elevate because of their mindfulness. They have sort of a meditative, peaceful thing, and that, people crave that more when they're not sleeping as much. So I feel like we would get into more meditative states where I'm going to spend the next week, like, looking at trees or some, we integrate some hippie mentalities more into our lives in a very simple way. Like, there's really not anything else other than just looking, that kind of thing. So it's weird.
I think you would have an increase in spas, like you say, and the hotel industry would just be demolished or definitely revolutionized and turned into like little phone booth, with Insomnotrons in them or something. Like, imagine airports, how they would change, like, now there are hotels that pop up kind of near airports, but they would all just go out of business, and you would have like the bathroom and then the Insomnotron room.
We would need changing locations to shower and poop and change our clothes. So these stations, these sort of prep stations, I think would become like, hey, here's a nice luxury place I guess that might even fit with the spa nature of things, where you just go and rent showers and stuff. And
this just occurred to me, but like, I think one of the primary purposes of having a home is to have a bed, right?
Oh, where am I going to sleep at night?
Where am I going to sleep at night? And if you have an Insomnotron or access to an Insomnotron, like, you might not need a home. Like, being homeless might be a somewhat viable way of life.
If it were like gas stations had also Insomnotron, like little, filler up stations.
Yeah. Like,
or
I don't know why that didn't occur to me before, but like, it just hit me like, man, you might not need a home. Like, you might just be able to.
I think we crave nesting to some degree of
definitely,
home base. So, but at very least, we're like, the idea of having a kitchen and then a bedroom. Like, I think we still have kitchens, obviously, we're eating and all this, but like, bedroom? Why the heck do I have a bedroom?
Yeah, why have a bedroom when you could have an Insomnotron room? I mean, you
I think
don't
the
even need
Insomnotron looks like like you said, with a laundry machine. You just like pull back the little
put it on the back
Venetian
of your
door.
toilet.
Yeah, oh, yeah, on the back of your toilet. Yeah, yeah.
And so when you're taking a poop, you can just pull down the headpiece thing and sleep. You have a nice 8 hours of sleep.
Really fancy toilets have a bidet and an Insomnotron.
Very funny. Yeah.
Yeah. But I actually envisioned it being in like a laundry room type setting, just this little, that's wherever the hookups for your washing machines are, often have Insomnotrons. Anyway, yeah, I like this. I like thinking about it.
Do you think $1,000, do you think that's an appropriate price? How much would you pay for an Insomnotron?
Oh, I mean, it's almost priceless. I mean, I pay everything I have to get my hands on one, but then like it would be so popular. Like I liked the price point because it's not free, but it's accessible for sure. And
Yeah,
I think that's what would happen. I think if that were invented, we would put I think that's a reasonable price to create, because everyone would say, yes, we're making this accessible to everyone. So if we put all of our whatever power behind creating these, yeah, you'd get it down to $1,000. Whereas the first one costs, $3 billion or something like that.
Sure. It's interesting how, like, even with these sci-fi technologies, like the teleporting refrigerators and the Insomnotron, like, a price just kind of appears and seems appropriate. Like for the teleporting refrigerator, I thought, well, definitely the price of a mid-sized sedan or something.
Yeah,
$17,000, $18,000, or I mean, I guess that's still a little cheaper than a mid-sized sedan, but like,
Do you think that's because you're linking travel and what do we have that currently travels, and size-wise, it seems to be?
Yeah, I think so.
And
yeah,
so
I think there's probably a little bit of that in there that just subconsciously seeps in. But it just seems like, this is going to be the car replacement. Okay, it's going to cost about as much as a car, and that's going to be a bed. I guess I didn't think about this. A bed replacement is going to cost as much as a bed, but
I think you're right. I think that's where that came from. Or even, I don't know why my mind went to TV. When I thought of $1,000 item in your home, though,
yeah, TV.
TV just sort of is where. Because what I was doing, I was thinking, when you said that, I was thinking, how accessible is this product? And then I thought, everyone has TVs, and that's why I went to TV. Everyone has them, and they are, they can be like 200, 300 if you just get a small, like 24-inch little screen. So, but anyway, yeah.
But yeah, everyone would get an Insomnotron.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what you would do. Yeah,
I mean, everyone has a smartphone, and so many people have iPhones, and those are approaching $1,000, if not more, by now.
It's wild to me. Yeah, yeah.
So,
well,
Insomnotron. Time to Insomnotron the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that later tonight. I'm going to do what if there was a machine that was like a long form Insomnotron and you laid on it and it was really comfortable?
The cheap version. It's like a filled up bag of cloth or cotton, and you just lay your head on it and it takes like 60 times as long as the Insomnotron.
Yeah.
It takes 8 hours.
Yeah, it takes about 8 hours.
That would be cool.
Yeah, pretty cool. I think I'd do that.
I call it the Somnotron.
Somnotron. Yeah. Okay. Bye.
All right. Bye. Bye. The end. Over.
It's over.
The worst beginning and ending.